Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever or whenever you might be listening to this very special podcast on. I want to welcome you specially to the weekly podcast on the keys and the laws of academic excellence. I think it's a good place to start. Let me start by saying happy new month to you. Welcome to the month of February. Of course, the vision for this weekly podcast is to help the global student community, of which includes you, to firstly identify and then apply the keys and the laws for academic excellence in order to experience a consistent academic performance. All right. So last month, I taught extensively on setting academic goals. All right. And the podcast in regards to setting academic goals was in, you know, a four-part series. So if you're new to the weekly podcast on um, the laws and the keys of academic excellence, I would advise you go back, you go to the last month section and download and then listen to all of the four parts, from either YouTube, Spotify, or Audio Mac rather. It was really very insightful. And the curriculum for this very podcast, it's built upon each other. All right. It's one lesson built upon the next. All right. One podcast series built upon the next. So for you to really appreciate all we're going to be doing with, in regards to the law of the process, I would advise you go back to setting academic goals, all right, so you can thoroughly understand where we're headed um, today and for the rest of the month. So this month promises to be very interesting as usual, all right, engaging as always and educative as you would expect. All right, I'm going to be teaching on the law of process, and the law simply says academic excellence is a process, all right, nothing more, nothing less. Academic excellence is a process, nothing more, nothing less. With regards to the laws and the keys of academic excellence, someone once asked me, said, I think, okay, I was over at NTA the other day for an interview, all right, and I was then asked, Mr. Michael, you have a book on the keys to academic excellence, and of course, you now have a book on the laws of academic excellence. So, talk to us. What are the difference between um, the keys for academic excellence and the laws for academic excellence? And that very day, my response was really simple, right? I said, uh, if I need a student to really experience an improvement in the academic performance, I start by recommending, some of the keys for academic excellence. However, because the student doesn't yet understand the workings behind the key, all right, or understand the process or the making of that very key, such a student might struggle to maintain, the improvement his or academic performance no, that might have happened during that very period of time. You just struggle to maintain that improvement that might have happened. And the reason for this is very simple. It takes the laws of academic excellence to really cement your knowledge, all right, to cement your knowledge of the subject of academic excellence. Now, why, you know, the law might dive deeper. The keys for academic excellence is just an introductory guide into the subject of academic excellence. All right, why the laws dig deeper into the very idea of achieving academic excellence. So, if you're coming to me for the very first time and you're a student, I'm not likely to teach you about the laws of academic excellence. All right, I want to introduce you to the basics. All right, I'll tell you, okay, pick up a book, pick up sometimes I nickname the book to be called my Red Book of Success. All right. So pick up the Red Book of Success, go through it chapter by chapter. When you're done, let me know. All right. And over and over and over and over and over again, feedbacks keeps coming. Oh, sir, I read the book and it was really clear. It was really simple. And I say, yes, it was written to really simplify the concept of academic excellence. In that very book, I talk about the right mindset, setting academic goals, like I shared last month. All right, the right timing, the right association, the right eating and reading culture. You know, steps for preparing for examination. All right, and the magic of your CA, your continuous assessment, and the rest of that. Now, these are really basic, what I would call introductory guide into the subject of academic excellence. All right, but once you're done with that, you cross over to the laws of academic excellence. All right, maybe a very simplified illustration to help this will help. We make you understand this better. Now, you have a key to many doors. All right, you have a key to a specific door. All right. Now, each of those keys, probably you have a house or you have a building that has 5 keys. Now, each one of those doors has a specific key. All right. It's your assignment to just use the very key to unlock, the door you want to access or the room you want to access, and that's all fine. Now, there's a working behind that very key. That key was designed in a process that will fit into the lock, all right, or fit into, the jam. So when you move it to the right or to the left after inserting it into the key lock, it opens the door. Now there's a law behind all of that. There's a working behind all of that. There's a process behind all of that. Now if you understand the process, you would be very, very comfortable when the key refuses to open the door. Why? You know what to do. All right, you know what to exactly do. You know what might be the issue. If that very rightful key does not open the door, you know what to do next. All right, and that is what the law of academic excellence, would usually do. All right, and now when I teach about the laws of academic excellence, it is also very important to note that the laws of academic excellence are categorized or divided into three main law groups. All right, and this is very important for you to write, because continually in this very podcast I will be introducing, I'll talk about the keys and I'll talk about the laws. Last week we talked about the keys. This month we're talking about the laws. Next month we're going to be talking about the keys. All right, we're going to go through all that, but whenever I share about the laws of academic excellence, I need you to understand that it is really divided into three main groups. All right, firstly we have the foundational law of academic excellence. All right. Secondly, we have the distinctive law of academic excellence. And thirdly, or lastly, we have the sustaining laws of academic excellence. Now, each one of these law group has their specific function. All right. And each one has their sub laws under them. All right. For example, the function of the foundational law, all right, of academic excellence is to help you build a good or a solid foundation for academic excellence. It helps you really understand the basics for, building an excellent academic performance. All right. And that is why it's called foundational law. It shows you what you must abide by. It shows you what you must do, what you mustn't do. All right. In achieving academic excellence. Let me just write in my screen a little bit so you can see. All right, so it serves as the foundation you need. All right, that's why it's called the foundational law. And in this very law, all right, in the first law, which is called the foundational laws, all right, there are three sub laws under it: the law of process, the law of early preparation, and finally the law of the inner cycle. All right, let me take that very carefully now. There are three sub laws under the foundational laws of academic excellence, and these are, firstly, the law of process, the law of the early preparation, and finally the law of the inner cycles. All right, if I was going to go through the distinctive laws of academic excellence, there are also three laws there. All right, and the three laws are there. And when we talk about the sustaining laws of academic excellence, three laws are also there. All right, three sub laws. Now, for our podcast this month, I'll be taking my time to really talk and teach extensively about the law of process. And the reason for this is very simple. If you ever desire, if you ever desire um, an excellent academic performance, all right, or you want to maximize your academic journey, you need to understand, you need the understanding of the law of process. And I have always maintained this. I've always maintained that, I've always maintained it in my teachings, my podcasts, and everything I have to do around, developing the global student community in achieving academic excellence. I would always say that every student has the potential for academic excellence. All right, every student. I'm yet to meet one student who doesn't have inherently built into him, the potentials for achieving academic excellence. Now, this is where the game changes, or this is where the big question comes in. Having the potentials for academic excellence is not enough. What the big question is, how do I then unlock the potential? Haven't seen or haven't understood by my teachings that yes, you have the laws, you have built within you, you know, that inherent capacity to be an excellent student. How then do I become that excellent student? How then do I unlock my potential? And this is what I seek to do in this weekly or this podcast that I will be doing for the rest of the month. All right. So now let's start by asking the very first question. What is the law of process all about? All right. What is the law of process all about? Now, the law of process stems from the understanding that, academic excellence never happens by chances or by accident, nor luck. Very important. That academic excellence never happens by these three things. It never happens by chances, will never happen by accident, or will never happen by luck. And if for any case, luck shines on you as it will. All right. It will take an understanding of the law of process to maintain a consistent performance. It will take the law of process to maintain that excellent performance. All right. The law of process really encompasses all the student must put in mind. All right. All the student must do in the pursuit of academic excellence. All right. Now, let me share you a very simple story. Or maybe just before I share you the story, it's important to bring you back from, to take you on a journey from where we last stopped in regards to the ladder of academic excellence. Now, I did tell you that some time ago, all right, I received an invitation, all right, I received an invitation to come speak on the pathways to achieving academic excellence in a one-day academic excellence conference, alongside three prolific speakers who I believe have made an impact in their mind. Alake Rotimi Gosh Prime, all right, the author of The Process of Life Before and After School, Emmanuel Edrin, who was at that time, a first class student, all right, eventually graduated as one, all right. And lastly, our host, Mr. Daniel Kasim, all right, youth and leadership advocates, the chartered Toastmasters, and the founder of the Inspire Talkspace. All right. Now, at the start of the conference, when I was asked to define the concept of academic excellence. Now, being a coach in this field, I had many definitions that hovered in my mind, in an instant. So I pondered, do I quote a definition from the internet or from an authority? Now, if I do, all right, I'm sure the students who I'm speaking to, all right, who are participants in this very conference, I'm sure they will forget or would have forgotten, that definition as soon as the conference ends. All right. Then I ask myself the next question, or do I want to make use of, complex sentences? All right. Or just make it unnecessarily difficult for them to understand? Or should I follow the communication principles of Dr. John C. Maxwell, all right, from his book on the 16 undeniable laws of communication, and just keep my definition of academic excellence as simple as I can so everybody can understand? When I was done processing all of this thought, I said to myself, I should do that. Then I said to the Congress and the audience, I said, academic excellence is a process, nothing more, nothing less. Now, that was certainly a good way to kick off the conference with with over 100 students in attendance that very day. However, the very definition needed a good illustration, all right, in order to drive home the process that's involved in achieving, excellent academic performance. Therefore, I then made use of, a ladder. And as you know, A ladder is a tool that is used to reach for height, all right? Right? But why do we have to use a ladder? All right? Why do we have to use a ladder? It's simple. If you intend to be an excellent student, you must be ready to do one thing. And that one thing you must be ready to do is to climb the ladder of academic excellence. All right. Why? All excellent grades are top of the ladder, and each step of the ladder or each rung on the ladder signifies a specific process you must go through in becoming an excellent student. So, with the assistance of one of the organizers, all right, or one of the participants, who at that time was also a student, I needed him to help me illustrate what I meant. So I told him to climb on each rung of the ladder of academic excellence. All right. And as he takes, the step on each rung of the ladder, I explained its significance. All right. You can always head back to my YouTube channel at Arise Michael Godfrey to see the complete video. But guess what? The fact that there is a ladder to climb or to reach for excellent grade does not necessarily mean every student climbs the ladder of academic excellence. Many students don't. All right. Many students don't climb the ladder of academic excellence. And this is what I mean. Now, beneath the step or around the step of the ladder, you would always find 80% of the student community with average performance and similar excuses for being, for having their average performance. For them, it's cool. It's all cool watching other students climb the ladder of academic excellence while they themselves endlessly complain about their course of study, their course mates, the lecturers, and institution. Now, with the average student looking around the ladder of academic excellence, you will find only 20% of students with excellent performance at the top of the ladder. For them, climbing the ladder of academic excellence is a necessity, all right? It is a required price to pay for achieving academic excellence. For them, there are no excuses for climbing or for not climbing the ladder of academic excellence. Now, as a result, they remain at the top of their respective department. They remain at the top of their respective faculty. They remain at the top of their respective units. And even sometimes these students will always be the overall best in the entire school. Why? Because they understand nothing else matters than climbing the ladder of academic excellence. So whether it is at dawn or at dusk, they will always climb the ladder because they understand academic excellence is a process, nothing more and nothing less. So they go right through it while other students walk past it. You need to understand this so clearly. Each rung on that ladder represents a process. It represents a process you must have to follow. So understanding that academic excellence is a process is important because the reason you might be struggling with average performance is that you failed to see that academic excellence is a process. You fail to see that, oh, this is a process that I must go through, all right, that I must go through daily and not in a day, all right. But if you refuse to climb the steps on the ladder or on the rungs of the ladder of academic excellence, you are then saying something. You are either trying to microwave your grades, or you're trying to manufacture your score, or you're trying to purchase an excellent degree or an excellent class of honor, all right, or you're wishing your way to the top of the ladder of academic excellence. But wishes does not translate to excellent performance. Only climbing the ladder can only climbing the ladder will bring you to that point where you consistently, experience or achieve excellent academic performance. Now, this brings me to the story of catering. All right, the story of catering. You know, if you want to have the best of this very story, you want to pick up my book, The 9+1 Laws of Academic Excellence. All right, I'm just going to share a few. I'm going to be sharing a few stories from that very book as we proceed in the podcast. All right. Now, if you don't know catering, you don't know anybody. And if you do know catering on campus, I'm sure you know everybody. Catherine was that very young girl that she earned her popularity as the most talked about student on campus. Everyone on campus admire her physique, her elegance, her sense of dressing, both on campus and beyond. And eventually, she emerged as, she had emerged as the only child from a well-to-do family, endowed with so much material resources and wealthy connection. All right. Growing up, Catherine lacked nothing. Think of the trips to Dubai, to Paris, to Mexico, to London, and the latest smartphone, the latest gadget. They were nothing new to her. All right. Nothing new to that. In fact, a student who once visited a residence off campus concluded it was heaven on earth. Her parents were so noble, loved their daughter, and were committed to giving her the best life. Now, after a while, Catherine gained admission to study journalism at a reputable institution, which to this day is still considered, the best in the countryside. Now, although she was beautiful and although she possessed all the potentials of an excellent student, Catherine kept the wrong association. And the priority for that association were social hangouts, clubbing, and other activity that had no direct contribution to the academics. All right. Now, for Catherine and her friends, studying made no sense until a few nights before examination. And if the exam should last for 3 hours, I can assure you that Catherine and her friends should be done in 30 minutes. Now, this is where it becomes very interesting. Despite their lack of dedication and commitment in not even attending lectures or being involved in the day-to-day class activity, it never reflected on the academic performance. In fact, they would always had, they always had excellent grades on paper, all right, and were considered five best students in their very department. Now, how they continued to pass their courses excellently was what a surprise and no surprise to their fellow classmates. But gradually, news of Catherine and her friends' performance raised the concern on campus and it reached the ears of the school evaluation team. Now, this school evaluation team were very unique and held their responsibility to their heart. All right. Now, they ensured that the examination question tallied with the curriculum. All right. And students were graded fairly. And they also prevented, manipulation of students' academic performance from the side of the lecturers and malpractice from the side of the student. Now, after a short while, having gone through the record and the performances of, Catherine and her friend, all right, their gimmicks were finally exposed. All right, after a short while, the gimmicks of Catherine and her friend had used in achieving excellent performance were finally exposed. An investigation was carried out, and it revealed that the examination and record officer manipulated student performance for a penny from male and an affair from the female students. Now he was brought down to books, all right. He was brought to books, handed over to the school disciplinary unit, having found guilty of breaching the institution ethics. The school left where they were left with no option than to relieve him of his job. Now, on the other side, Catherine and her friends were already in their final year of the academic program. However, they were found guilty of post-examination malpractice, and they were given two options. You either start the program anew from the first year or you are expelled as a student of the institution. Now, catering parents tried all they could, all right? They were willing to sacrifice their resources, salvage the situation, but the institution upheld their strong value, all right? Now, catering considering both options, she fell into depression, took her life, skipping, all right? She fell into depression and would later take her life. Now, this is where the story gets more interesting. Oh, these are the lessons you must draw from this very story. Skipping the process gave Catherine the grades, but it took her life. She had the potentials of an excellent student, but died as an average student. Skipping the process gave her the grades, however, it took her life. All that happened to Catherine and her friends were caused by one thing. It was caused by skipping the law process. And even though they all had the potential for achieving excellent performance, they couldn't realize that. Why? They walked past this very important law. They walked past the law process, all right, why all the students went right through it. Now, this might be your case. This might not be your case. This might be the case of your friends or probably other classmates. But I need you to realize something. The love process is so important and so vital to your academic performance. And in our next podcast, I'm going to be helping you understand this because I found out most times we skip the law of process, because of ignorance. We are not well taught. We don't know when we do, all right? And other times we deliberately skip the law of process. For example, you're a new student, a fresher, 100 level, or probably in your second year, and your friends that you keep, all right, just like in the case of catering, all right, are not driven by academic activities. They are rather driven or motivated by something outside the four walls of the classroom, or something entirely different, or something completely different from the purpose of why they are there in the university. And now you keep friends, you keep pals with such friends. Over time, I'm sure something will happen. As they begin to lose interest in the academic activity, so would you. As they begin to show up for classes, once a while, so would you. As they begin to skip all class activity, all school activity, so would you. All right. It's a process, and that process there now involves, forming or having the right relationship. Yours might not be a relationship now, or yours might not be association. Yours might have to do with timing. All right. And in the next podcast, I'll help you understand each one of these things I'm saying. Yours might be with timing. Now, you understand that all excellent performance or all average performance are all function of how well or how wisely you use or utilize your time. Now, this is also part of the process. If you now find out that you've been using your time for, activities that has no direct contribution to your academic performance, you've done one thing. You've just, you've just boycotted the very process. So that's why I say sometimes this might be done ignorantly, other times it might be done deliberately. But whichever, whenever it's done ignorantly or deliberately, it leads to one thing. It leads to average performance, because the law of process is very, very important and very, very integral. Very important and very, very important. So this is the law of the process. Academic excellence is a process, nothing more, nothing less. Average students walk past it, while excellent students go right through it. So I want to use this to specially welcome you to this very podcast series. It's going to be a very interesting time. Next week we are going to continue our section on the law of process. However, if you have questions, all right, you can always drop your questions on the comment section or forward to me, all right, using any of my handles. If you want to reach me on WhatsApp, 070 all right, or you can reach me on, you can write to me via mail at arisegodfrey@gmail.com, no space, all right, or you can download a copy of all of these podcasts at, Seller. All right, just go to the Seller store, all right, at www.seller forward slash m forward slash arise underscore g underscore Michael. All right, and you will get all of our recorded podcasts, or you can head on to YouTube, all right, Facebook, AudioMark, Spotify. They will all give you all of our podcasts in a playlist. Until next week, my name is Arise Michael Godfrey. I'm your friend, and see you next week, Thursday.